You click this because the title hits a nerve. Illegal in seduction. Shady tricks that work. Your curiosity wants the truth, and your values want a line you won't cross. Good. You're about to get both. I'm going to spell out 5 tactics that absolutely can produce compliance, obsession, or control in the short term. Exactly because they hijack fear, scarcity, and confusion in the human nervous system. Some of them are straight-up crimes in many countries. Others sit in a gray zone, but are being codified into law right now as coercive control, stalking, or image-based abuse. All of them will blow up your life, stain your name, and fracture your self-respect. The only reason to learn them here is to uninstall them from your mindset, to inoculate yourself against using them, and to replace each with the clean, legal, high-integrity alternatives that actually make you attractive for the long run. This is not a bag of tricks. This is a mirror. If you can handle a hard look, you'll walk out with a code that makes women lean in because they feel safe and challenged in your presence, not because you gamed their boundaries into silence. Let's be painfully clear about what works means. It means you can push certain buttons in a stressed brain and get a reaction. Attention, compliance, heightened emotion, sexual behavior, even chasing. Neurologically, unpredictability and threat amplify focus. Scarcity inflates perceived value. Novelty spikes dopamine. Social risk turns on vigilance. If your only goal is to create signals in a lab, you could provoke those reactions. But seduction isn't a lab, and women aren't levers. Your name is attached to every signal you create, and so is your conscience. Erich Fromm warned that love born from emptiness tries to grab, trap, and consume. Love born from fullness chooses and builds. What I am going to show you is the emptiness playbook, the 5 moves that prey on vulnerability, and the strength alternative, the 5 habits that generate real desire without manipulating anyone's nervous system. You'll recognize the shady moves in the wild, you'll feel why they work, and you'll know exactly what to do instead. So your presence is addictive for the right reason, integrity that feels like oxygen. The first shady trick is covert surveillance, the modern shape of stalking. It looks like serendipitous run-ins, engineered by tracking her location. It looks like hidden AirTags tucked into cars or bags. It looks like fake accounts lurking in her close friends' stories. It looks like weaponized curiosity dressed up as romance. In many jurisdictions, planting tracking devices, accessing accounts without permission, or monitoring someone's movements is a crime. Even where the law lags, your conscience doesn't. Why it works is simple. Familiarity and frequency amplify attraction, and what's familiar feels safe. If you control the map, you can manufacture proximity until you seem inevitable. But you can't build trust on stolen data. The second your pattern spills, the entire lattice of familiarity collapses into violation. You don't become that guy she keeps bumping into. You become the guy she tells friends to avoid. The alternative is pattern without predation. If you want more contact, be present in shared environments you both choose, classes, communities, events aligned with your values. Build actual gravity by being known for your craft, your humor, your reliability in a scene. So, serendipity is honest probability. You don't read her calendar, you lead with invitations that respect her time, day, place, window, clear exit. You let no be a complete sentence. Your presence becomes the safe constant she starts to prefer, not a shadow she starts to fear. The second shady trick is chemical boundary blurring, pressuring or orchestrating intoxication to lower resistance. This isn't gray, this is criminal. If someone is impaired, they cannot give meaningful consent. You already know this. Men who ignore it hide behind the language of vibes, but secrecy is a tell. Why this works is also simple. Alcohol lowers inhibition and narrows focus. Pair that with a loud venue and social pressure, and you can slide past defenses for a night. You will not sleep well afterward, and you shouldn't. You didn't seduce, You stole. The clean alternative is the opposite frame. You optimize for lucid chemistry. You cultivate a life where sober presence is already charged, fitness that steadies you, rituals that regulate you, conversation that engages, humor that relaxes. You suggest first meets where clarity is easy, coffee, walks, quiet corners, early evenings. You set a tone that makes consent explicit and unawkward. You read breath and eyes. You check in with words that sound like you. You accept no without turning cold or defensive. The paradox is real. The man who is visibly comfortable with boundaries creates more desire, not less, because safety is the soil where tension can stretch. You don't need lowered inhibitions to be chosen. You need a self you respect enough to be fully awake for the moment when she chooses you. The third shady trick is identity fraud and status theater, catfishing, borrowed luxury, fabricated careers, embellished intentions. A rented car, a staged apartment, a watch you plan to return on Monday, a bio that inflates you into a man your commitments can't support. Fraud works at the door because status cues are filters. They compress months of data into a snap judgment. Is this man competent, reliable, ascending? Lie to those filters and you'll buy yourself an evening. You won't survive the week. When the lie cracks, you don't lose points, you lose your category. Trust falls to zero, and so does attraction, because the nervous system reads deceit as danger. The alternative is legitimate signaling. Status isn't a logo, it's receipts. You build receipts in quiet, reps at the gym and at your craft, money managed with grown man math, an environment that runs on purpose instead of chaos, friendships and mentors with depth. You dress to fit your frame and context because fit beats flash. You speak about your work without auditioning for applause. You demonstrate generosity without ledger. You tip well, you notice the server's name, you bring logistic competence to dates. These are not tricks, they're signals that your life actually works. Robert Cialdini wrote about how scarcity and authority move human behavior. You don't fake scarcity by being hard to reach while unemployed in your soul. You create healthy scarcity by being in demand with your mission. You don't fake authority with props. You earn it by practicing something real until you're good enough to be useful. The fourth shady trick is psychological destabilization. Love bombing plus intermittent reinforcement, jealousy induction, and subtle isolation. In some countries, this pattern is being recognized in law as coercive control. The steps are crude. Flood her nervous system with attention and grand gestures, create a high, yank the attention at random, create a crash, seed jealousy with options and stories designed to put her on edge. Wedge her away from friends who might ground her. Repeat until her baseline is anxiety and you are both the cause and the cure. It works because the brain is wired to chase unpredictable rewards. Casinos run on that loop. You are not a casino, you're a man building a reputation. The alternative is what secure adults crave. Consistent attention in meaningful doses, clean pacing, and honest mystery. You don't flood, you focus. When you're with her, you're with her. Phone away, eyes present, curiosity alive. When you're not, you're not. You go live your week, and you respond when you can be present. You don't withhold affection to create a chase. You withhold self-betrayal to maintain respect. You don't seed jealousy with tall tales. You seed trust with boundaries you actually keep. You don't isolate, you integrate. You leave her world better than you found it by supporting her friendships and time alone, because you're building with a woman, not trying to own a mind. The attachment that forms around consistency plus challenge is deeper than any high you can manufacture, and it doesn't require you to become a villain to feel wanted. The fifth shady trick is reputation blackmail, non-consensual recording, threats to leak messages or intimate images, doxxing, or any leverage play that weaponizes someone's privacy. Image-based abuse is illegal in many jurisdictions. Even hinting at it is a confession that you're allergic to being a man. Why it works is obvious. Fear is a fast teacher. People comply when they believe you hold a grenade. But that compliance is the opposite of attraction, and it makes you live in a cage of your own making, a small, suspicious version of yourself who can't trust love unless he's holding a hostage. The alternative is sacred privacy and clean exits. You treat every message, photo, and confession as if a future version of you will read it out loud in front of people you respect. You delete what is intimate when the connection ends. You never show receipts to win points with strangers. You do not record without consent. You make your home and your presence a place where people can relax because you don't collect evidence. You collect memories. That discipline builds a brand that compels investment. When people know their dignity is safe with you, they don't need to be cornered to stay. They choose to stay, and ironically they chase, because safety with edge is the rarest mix on the market. If you recognize yourself flirting with any of those five, don't justify it with the language of results. Say the quiet part out loud to yourself. You are trying to trade your integrity for access. You were trying to sell your soul for a night. That trade is always bad math. The real game is attraction built on reality, not reactions built on fear. So what does the legal, ethical, high-leverage alternative look like when the camera isn't on and nobody is clapping? It looks like standards, purpose, attention mastery, frame and competence braided into a rhythm people can trust. It looks like you becoming the kind of man who doesn't need shortcuts because the long road already gave him something shortcuts can't: a spine. Start with standards that don't argue with themselves. Weak men think boundaries are confrontations. Strong men know boundaries are invitations. Rules for how to love me and how I will love you. You don't shout them, you live them. If a plan is cancelled last minute twice, you don't write a novel. You say you plan your week carefully and need confirmations in advance, and then you watch behavior. If flirting drifts into disrespect, you don't retaliate. You reset and step back if it continues. If chemistry is hot on date one, you don't sprint to manufacture intimacy. You pace so trust can catch up. Your no is clean and your yes is whole. A woman relaxes into that because she can predict the man she'll get tomorrow, not just the performance you're giving tonight. Purpose is next because it's the engine that drives all your yes and no. Viktor Frankl didn't romanticize meaning. He documented how it keeps humans upright in chaos. A purposeful life doesn't require a cape. It requires a calendar. You know what you're building this quarter. You protect deep work like rent. You train because pressure will come, and you intend to be ready. You invest in skills that compound. You say no to impulse buys because you're funding your future. A woman doesn't need your every minute. She needs to see that your minutes are not for sale to the highest bidder of distraction. That's the difference between a man who chases and a man who is chased. One is hungry for validation. The other is satisfied with his mission and curious about partnership. Attention mastery gives your presence weight. You stop treating your focus like confetti. You stop trying to keep every conversation inflated with tiny pings. You send fewer, richer messages. You build anticipation by ending on highs and letting time do its job. You answer when you can be present, not every time your phone twitches. You don't ghost because you're not a child. You pace because you're a man who respects his schedule and hers. Blaise Pascal knew the human mind leans toward what it can't devour all at once. Give connection room to breathe and it grows. Smother it and it dies in your hands. Frame is where leadership lives without shouting. You don't dominate, you author. Tuesday or Thursday at 7, quiet spot on Elm. If this week's tight, tell me yours. That sentence carries 1,000 subtexts. I plan, I decide, I invite, I adapt. When friction arrives, you don't inflate it into theater, you translate it into clarity. You don't negotiate your dignity for access, You don't punish with silence. You don't try to win arguments that standards can quietly end. The frame you hold teaches both of you what this is. If the fit is real, she relaxes into your pace. If it isn't, the frame lets misalignment exit without damage. Either outcome is a win, because the goal isn't victory, it's the truth fast. Competence is the visible proof your standards apply to yourself first. Clean space, reliable car, bank account that doesn't play hide and seek with overdrafts, food that fuels thought, wardrobe that fits and is maintained, grooming that's ritual, not accident, sleep that funds decision-making, friendships that sharpen, mentors with receipts. None of this is about flex, it's about capacity. Attraction is the human nervous system searching for a place where life will be lighter, not heavier. When your life already works, you show up as a lift, not a load. That's addictive, and it's legal. Now let S pour all of this into the trenches so it stops being theory and starts being breath. You meet her at a friend's gallery opening. Old you would spray stories and hope one lands. You notice the way she paused too long in front of a small, quiet piece, and you ask what she saw that you missed. You let 2 beats of silence hang after her answer, because silence is where sincerity reveals itself. You share one slice of a time. You saw something simple differently, not to outdo her, but to connect. You end before the energy dips. Later, you send one message that advances the story, not a dozen that hold your anxiety at bay. Tuesday or Thursday at 7, there's a place with a corner that fits this kind of conversation. She proposes Thursday. You confirm and you arrive 5 minutes early because rushing shreds presence. You sit like your spine remembers you. You keep your phone out of sight without announcing it like a virtue. You ask about decisions, not just preferences, because values live inside decisions. You notice how she treats the server because character leaks in small acts. If the moment asks for a kiss, you meet it. If it doesn't, you don't force one because urgency is fear wearing cologne. You end on a high and you leave space for anticipation to gather. Between dates, you don't turn your thread into a drip line. You check in with intention, you propose, you listen, you return to your mission. If she mirrors energy, you meet her. If she fades, you don't chase echoes. 2 days later, you might ping with purpose. If vagueness repeats, you step away with warmth. You didn't lose. You filtered misfit without drama. Your nervous system learns it doesn't need to lunge at every silence. And that steadiness is what women call masculine. Not muscles, not money, not noise. Dependable momentum. Conflict appears, as it must in anything real. She cancels last minute twice. You don't rant and you don't roll over. I enjoy you and I plan my week. For this to work, I need confirmations the day before. Then you watch behavior, not promises. If it changes, respect grows. Respect is the skeleton that desire hangs on when novelty fades. If it doesn't, you step back without essays. You prove to yourself that your standards exist outside your mood. That self-proof is priceless because it keeps you from bleeding into the 5 shady tricks out of panic. Panic always hunts shortcuts. Standards keep you in the long game. Escalation happens at the pace of mutual desire, not at the pace of your fear. You check in with words that fit your mouth. You keep consent warm and unawkward. You lead, but you're not a bulldozer. You can stop without sulking because your body is led by a man, not a boy, sprinting after validation. Restraint is a rare signal. It says you own your hunger. It doesn't own you. That signal lets her sink deeper into the moment and into you. Intensity without safety is adrenaline. Intensity with safety is attachment. Attachment is what people call addiction when they've never had the healthy kind. Distance arrives, work trip, family crisis, packed weeks. You pre-frame reality. This week's stacked. I'll reach out Sunday and lock next. Sunday arrives, and so do you. You don't apologize for having a life, and you don't disappear into ego. You keep your world moving, and you keep your word. Dependability is the quietest aphrodisiac. It makes Saturday feel like continuation, not rescue. It teaches her that choosing you won't require firefighting. Relief is a memory the body chases. If you want philosophy to scaffold all this, take 4 names as anchors and let them shape your daily design without quoting anyone like scripture. Give from fullness, so love doesn't turn into need disguised as care. Cialdini. Understand that scarcity and authority influence behavior, so you will never counterfeit either. You'll create real priorities and real mastery. Frankel. Orient your week around meaning, so you stop turning women into pharmacies for self-esteem. Jung. Integrate your shadow so jealousy, anger, and fear stop driving your hands across the keyboard. Feel them, name them, move them, and then choose behavior you'll respect in the morning. That quartet makes you dangerous in the only way that matters. Your presence becomes concentrated, not sharp, warm, not needy, selective, not stingy, clear, not performative. Now zoom back to the title you brought me and hear the subtext the right way. Doing this is illegal in seduction. Stealing data instead of building gravity, blurring consent instead of breathing through desire, lying about status instead of becoming valuable, destabilizing minds, instead of calming nervous systems and weaponizing privacy, instead of turning intimacy into a sanctuary. Those 5 work only if you've decided your legacy is compliance, not connection, control, not choice, fear, not trust. Refuse that legacy. You can become the man whose life is so coherent that women invest and sometimes chase without you ever touching the lines the law draws or the lines your soul draws. Coherence means your room matches your mouth, your money matches your plans, your body matches your claimed values, your friendships match your direction, your calendar matches your priorities. Coherence turns your attention into the rarest thing you give and the best thing she receives. That's the cleanest form of power there is. You will slip. You'll feel the itch to check her location when she goes slow. You'll want to numb with drinks and call it vibe. You'll be tempted to polish a story until it sparkles past the truth. You'll feel like flooding her feed to yank attention back. You'll imagine winning an argument by waving screenshots. Catch yourself sooner each time. Replace the urge with a rep. A workout instead of a wobble, a single clear text instead of a drip, a boundary instead of a performance, a cleanup of your space instead of a cleanup of her behavior, a call to a friend who sharpens you instead of a scroll that softens your spine. Identity is evidence stacked in private. Stack enough and the shady shortcuts will look like what they are. Low status moves for men who don't trust they can be chosen. Tomorrow morning, build a day that supports the man you're becoming. Protect 90 minutes for deep work. Train until your breath reminds you you're alive. Eat for clarity. Dress to fit your frame. Clean one surface that has been nagging you. Send one message that advances a story instead of petting anxiety. Say no once where yes would drain you. Say yes once where no is just fear wearing logic. Read 3 pages that point your mind somewhere higher than the algorithm. Put $1 more than last month toward a future you intend to fund. Then sleep like your decisions matter. These are not small acts. They are the architecture of a presence that doesn't need tricks. And when you stand in front of her next time, you will feel the difference before she does. You'll be calm in your bones because you didn't cross yourself to get here. That calm is charisma. Women lean toward it not because you hacked their brain, but because you honored yours. So here's your vow, the only one that belongs under a title like this. You will not touch what's illegal or live what's unethical to feel wanted. You will not steal proximity, blur consent, fake status, destabilize minds, or hold anyone's privacy hostage. You will instead live by standards that protect desire, a purpose that sets rhythm, attention that creates depth, a frame that calms chaos, and competence that lightens life. You will be dangerously attractive in the most lawful sense, a man whose integrity generates pursuit. If that sounds less dramatic than a bag of tricks, good. Drama burns fast. Integrity compounds. And compounding is the only thing in human attraction that reliably works forever.